Okay, what's good, nerds? Today we have some exciting news. Hakita has just announced the third and final red gun that will be coming to the video game. Well, I say third and final new red gun. The fifth and final one that will be added to the game total. So we've now got a red shotgun, a red nail gun, and a red rocket launcher. The rocket launcher, of course, I've already talked about. But I haven't really... I haven't talked about what I think of the shotgun. I mean, the shotgun came out yesterday. But I didn't talk about the nail gun either. So I'm just going to be yapping about those, giving my opinions, my initial thoughts. And my initial thought is, Hakita is kind of cooking. He's kind of cooking. I think that these red weapons that Hakita's, has shown us, they have potential. I think they're very, very unique. Right? Like, they're really unique. But I think that they definitely have a risk of being situational. You know what I mean? Like, the red rocket launcher is cool, as I've said, but how often are we going to want to oil up the enemies? You know what I'm saying? Like, how frequently is that going to actually be a useful thing to do in the level? And the same goes for the red nail gun, right? I think the chaining electricity idea is really cool. Right, I like that. That's interesting. My question is, right, can you swap weapons while the electricity is charging? Because if you can, then, the weapon's going to be insane. It's going to be, like, really strong, I think. Because as far as I can see from the teaser that Hakita put out, the electricity does a lot of damage over a very large area. It's kind of just like malicious rail cannon at home. But if you can't swap weapons and still charge the electricity, then I think that the weapon is going to be terrible. Because the charge on it is really, really long. Like, really long. And in Ultrakill, you want things that are going to go quickly. You want things that you can just fire off and then swap to the next weapon. You don't want to be stuck on a nail gun, of all things, for about like 5 seconds while it charges. So, I'm sure Hakita thought of that. And I'm sure you can swap weapons. But that's just, we're gonna have to wait and see. Because for now, it's up in the air. I also think, right, the changes to electricity, I think they're interesting. But I do question how necessary they are. Like, making it so if you use an electric rail cannon underwater, it hurts you. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Right, like, that makes sense. But was it needed? Because now, it kind of, as far as I can see from Hakita's videos, it just removes an option. It's like, wow, now I can't use the blue rail cannon. So I hope that there's like a way you can circumvent the damage. I hope. Okay, I mean, like, I have full faith in Hakita to, have foresaw these problems. And I also have faith that if he didn't, community feedback will come quickly. And he's shown that he is willing to listen to community feedback. Like when the gutter tanks were overpowered. And they were swiftly nerfed. But moving on from the red nail gun, which, I mean, looks cool. At the end of the day, it's still a nail gun. I want to see what the red saw blade is like. But we don't have any information on that. So moving on from the nail gun, I think that the red shotgun looks very, very interesting indeed. Obviously the design is inspired from Doom, with just being a literal chainsaw. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. And I think it could definitely be an interesting close range option, which I think the game kind of lacks. Like, a lot of the guns are at their best when they're at range. The only thing that's really good close range is the sword blade launcher. But that's kind of like a weird one. Because yes, it's good close range technically, but it's not good close range if you're just like shooting it. And the only other weapon that's really good close range is the nail gun. But we all know how that story goes. It's not great. So I think adding a new like hyper close range oriented option is a good thing. And I also think the fact that you can charge it up, fire it, and then start parrying at enemies, I think that's cool. Yeah, I think that's really cool. The only thing I'm looking at that and going, that kind of stinks, is how long the cooldown on it is. Because as far as I can see from the video, the cooldown's really long. Which I don't know if that's really, like, strictly necessary. I think it would be better if the cooldown was shorter, but the style was reduced. Oh, whoops. But yeah, no, I think that would be better. But, I like the fact that you can just, like, shoot it around. I think it could be an interesting option, say, if you've just whiplashed to an enemy. Like, say, like a boss. Right? Like, it'll give whiplashing into a boss more of a purpose. Instead of just, pumping it with, like, an overpump, you could launch a saw blade at it. Chainsaw, same thing. You know what I'm saying? Could be interesting. I think the weapon looks cool, but again, I think it does fall into the issue of it looks like it's very, very situational, very niche. Right? Because, like, yes, I could use the chainsaw. But why wouldn't I just, overpump? Because, that's very quick, very easy, very high damage. So I guess we'll have to see how much damage, just how much damage the chainsaw really does. Of course, these are just my initial thoughts based on short 1-minute teaser trailers on Hakita's channel. No one's actually gotten to use the weapon. No one's gotten to test the weapon out. Why do I hit? I thought I heard you. But yeah, no one's gotten to use the weapon, and the only footage we have is a minute-long teaser on Hakita's channel. So these are some very misinformed opinions. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe these weapons aren't situational. Maybe they're incredibly powerful. I don't know. So, why do I feel like I'm missing an enemy? It's because I am. But yeah, you know, maybe these weapons are not situational. That was weird. Maybe they're actually, like, super good. Because to be fair, everyone thinks... You know, everyone thought Sharpshooter was a situational weapon for the longest time. But now, you know, it's one of my favourite weapons. I use it all the time. I think it's, you know, one of the most well-designed and fun weapons in the game. So we'll have to see. And of course, the biggest things that we haven't seen is how most of these weapons interact with parrying and coins. Like, you know, we have no idea how coins are going to come into play with any of these weapons. If they're going to come into play at all. I'm sure they will. Of course, you know, most weapons in this game have some form of coin interaction. So I'm sure Hakita thought of this. But, you know, I'm struggling to think of it. The rocket launcher, if I had to guess, just like the other rocket launchers in the game, will not have any coin interaction. The shotgun, I don't know. Maybe the saw blade could, like, bounce off coins, who knows? I think it could be an interesting idea, like, if you fire the saw blade, and then you hit a coin with the saw blade, right? If you manage to hit a coin with the saw blade, it kind of turns into like a permanent split coin. Or it turns into two coins, right? Like you saw the coin in half. You know, that could be an interesting concept. But that could, you know, that could very much so fall into the realm of too situational to make any real use of. But you know, everyone's saying, "Oh, these weapons look so situational. They look like they're not gonna have any use cases." Number one, Hakita has shown time and time again that even situational weapons, like the SRS cannon, can be very, very useful in the right scenario. Right? Like, I use the SRS cannon all the time. And also, I think it's not inherently a bad thing if the red weapons are more situational and more out there. Right, like the blue weapons are your very, like, typical standard weapon, right? Like your typical revolver, typical shotgun. And then the green weapons, they're a little bit more funky, right? They're a little bit more of a side grade. You know, they have some pros over the blue weapons, and they also have some cons over the blue weapons. And then the red weapons are just, like, real funky. They're not meant to compete with the blue and the green weapons. They're meant to be like something completely brand new, out of left field. You know, something that you weren't expecting. And I think Hakita's done a pretty good job with that. Like, he's made some weapons that definitely I'm excited to use. Some weapons that I think look very fun and very interesting. But also some weapons that I think, you know, if you're trying to play the game as optimally as possible, you may be disappointed. But frankly, that's not a bad thing, because if you're trying to play the game as optimally as possible, then in my personal opinion, you've missed the point of the game. You know what I'm saying? Right, like, the point of the game is to go crazy, is to make, like, the most crazy, wild clips that you can think of using these weapons. The aim of the game is to not, you know, play as optimally as possible. That's where I think people who play this game, maybe they miss the mark a little bit, right? Like, I think custom levels fall into this trap a lot. Where instead of making a level that is fun to play, they make a level that is difficult to play. Because they want to make a level that, like, you know, you can show off how good you are at the game. But in doing so, they just kind of end up making a bad level. Because they haven't focused on fun. Which is, I think, you know, I think that's what Hakita's been doing with these weapons. He's been focusing on, these look very fun, very unique, very interesting to use. And not, these weapons are going to be, you know, the meta, they're going to be broken. Right? Like, Hakita isn't trying to make... He's not trying to make the next marksman. Because as much as we all love the marksman, as much as Hakita loves the marksman, it's overpowered. Right, everyone knows it's overpowered. But it's not going to get change, because it's fun. It's very fun, very interesting. And everyone loves it. Same with the alternate marksman, right? The alternate marksman, you know, I make the videos saying, oh, it's the worst weapon in the game. It really isn't. Like, it's not that bad. But it's not as good as the default marksman. It never will be. And also, it's just less fun to use. I think that's the biggest thing going against it. So Hakita's trying to address that issue with a small buff to the weapon, more of a rework than a buff, where, you know, if you shoot the coin at the split coin, your alt marksman just reloads right there, right then. I think that's very, very interesting, very good way to rework this weapon. And I think it will definitely make it more fun to use. And I hope that the marksman buff comes at the same time as the 3 brand new weapons. Because that would definitely be cool. And if you didn't know, Hakita said in his new video that the new weapons might be coming next week. Maybe. Maybe. So if not next week, they're coming in the next few weeks. Which means, you know, get excited, because I am definitely going to be making content on the new weapons. Perhaps doing some challenges with them. Out of my face. But yeah, all that is to come when the new weapons drop.